A toast to the end of a miserable, miserable year. Now, let us hope for a better 2017 and celebrate by remembering the good things that came out of this year. I'm your host, Cicabeot1, and I have vitamin water. Unfortunately, it's not a flavor I really like. Roll it!
Like I said, I didn't think this year was that bad as far as pop music goes, but since that's a minority opinion, I don't expect many of my picks for this list to be very popular. But all that matters to me is that I like them, and I can back up why I like them. I am screwed. In the past, I've given out my score for a year at the beginning of my best list, but I'm actually going to save that for a third video in which I talk about the year-end songs I didn't get a chance to talk about in my lists. So why didn't I hate this year? Let's find out. These are...
I used to believe we were burning on the edge.
The top 10 best hit songs of 2016, in my opinion. Number 10.
I'm beginning to feel like a rap god.
For whatever reason, my favorite rappers tend to be white. And while I don't think I'd consider this guy one of my favorites, sure, I'll bat for him.
Yeah.
Let me just get this out of the way. G-Eazy is an asshole. Even I can admit that. So why do I like a lot of this guy's songs? Well, I don't know. I guess part of it has to do with just being relatable. Being unsatisfied with your own successes and even loathing yourself over nothing. It kinda stings when you think about it, that you're able to relate to somebody like him. But most of what I like about this song in particular doesn't really have much to do with G-Eazy himself, admittedly. The production is muted and moody, but not to a fault. I guess you could kinda call it a trendsetter for the rest of the year. Still, Me, Myself, and I was able to make its misery infectious. The pianos are gorgeous, the synths stick in the brain and are fuzzy enough that they leave an impact without being irritating. And then we have Bebe Rexha's chorus, which is crooning and powerful and all around pleasant to listen to. It's an earworm, and it makes the song what it is. I guess in between this and Hey Mama, you could say I'm more of a fan of her than I am of G-Eazy, but I've only really heard her as features on hooks. What's her solo material like?
No broken hearts in the club, no tears in the club.
Okay, that was a mistake. Yeah, I think she's way better off as a feature.
And I don't like talking to strangers, so get the fuck off me, I'm anxious.
As for G-Eazy himself, well, admittedly, his bars aren't perfect, but I still enjoy them. He switches back and forth between bragging about his wealth and wallowing in his own misery and dissatisfaction, but it doesn't come across as jarring. As far as I'm concerned, these two attitudes pretty much go hand in hand.
Fuck fake friends, we don't take L's, we just make M's.
I guess his wordplay could be a little better, but other than that, his verses are serviceable. Yeah, he's going for a Drake-esque flow, but I think he does it a little better than Drake himself. After all, the song is way more high concept than Drake would ever attempt nowadays. And if this doesn't do it for you, I completely understand, but please, at least look up FDT Part 2 with YG and Macklemore if you haven't already. Even people I know who don't like G-Eazy like his verse there. So yeah, song about wanting to be alone speaks to me. Who'd have known?
Selling a dream, smoking mirrors keep us waiting.
Number 9.
Girl, you're perfect, you're always worth it.
I have mixed feelings about The Weeknd. I mean, yeah, he's a talented guy and he usually makes interesting music, but let's just say I had a rocky start with him. Even his latest album, Starboy, felt lacking in some areas, especially in the last third. But I'm still rooting for him, I really am. Case in point... When I first heard this song, I kinda thought it was a better version of Can't Feel My Face, the first solo Weeknd song I heard that I thought was any good. Now that I think about it, I don't know how accurate that really is. Rhythmically, I guess it's similar, but In the Night is undeniably darker and grittier. And yet, unlike something like The Hills, it actually manages to be cohesive and pleasant to listen to. It would probably be my favorite Weeknd song if False Alarm and Party Monster didn't exist. Back to In the Night. It starts out kinda quiet and subdued. The Weeknd himself sounds great, doing his typical crooning shtick. It's serviceable. But then we get to the chorus. There's an explosion of synth and bombast, and the build to it is incredible. It's hard to describe, but I guess what I appreciate the most in this song is the way the chorus does that instant thing. I'm not usually a fan of this, it usually just makes my ears feel cold and unfulfilled. But here it doesn't really bother me that much because the rest of the mix is actually full enough to back it up. So it actually adds some nice texture in the end.
He was cold and he was so unforgiving.
The lyrics are about a survivor of childhood sexual abuse, apparently. Oh, jeez, Abel, you're really not one for subtlety, are you? If there's anything I don't really like about this song, it's the video. I really don't like it when videos constantly interrupt the song, and it's no different here. All this random imagery kinda halts the momentum, especially before the second chorus. I usually just listen to this without the video, and I've run out of things to say about this song. Next!
I don't think you understand. They go through the darkest of days, having to heartbreak away.
Number 8. 2016 was a year of tension, especially in politics. Yelling at each other never solved anything before, but everything's so chaotic that everyone thinks it'll work this time. Yeah, everything's controversial this year, and I mean everything. No exceptions. But other than the presidential election and maybe Brexit, probably the most controversial thing to come out of this year was 21 Pilots. Part of me has been nervous to talk about this song, because in the words of TechJet, no matter what your opinion is on 21 Pilots, it's probably wrong.
I just wanna stay in the sun where I find.
I've heard from people who really hate this song. I've heard from people who really love this song. And I think from this list it's fair to say that I am deep into the latter category. This isn't quite among my favorites on Blurry Face, but I will still welcome it with open arms. And the main reason for that is its creativity. What I personally love about 21 Pilots, and Tyler Joseph specifically, is their ability to pull off unique, genre-bending sounds, and Ride is no exception. It feels primarily rooted in reggae, with the bloopy organ tones and the way Josh Dunn drums, but you also get hints of gospel on the bridge and on the outro. The synths give more of a pop or alternative feel. It sounds like a lot to take in. Personally, I think it comes together quite nicely. Tyler Joseph is a good composer. He knows how to make his work seamless, even when it crosses many different genres. But the sound is very love it or hate it, admittedly. I guess it's not perfect, but I always consider this a rewarding listen.
I die for you, that's easy to say. We have a list of people that we would take.
But that's only half the song. The lyrics... Okay, here's the thing. I have no idea what they're actually about, but from what I can decode, Tyler's looking for peace of mind, fantasizing about his own death, and in general wondering who and what around him is worth devoting his life to. It's all very messy and kinda scattershot, but I have the feeling that's how it's supposed to be. Mostly because the bridge goes like this.
I've been thinking too much. I've been thinking too much. Help me.
To me, this is a song about being overwhelmed by your own thoughts, going one step beyond what's stressed out setup. Not just longing for bygone childhood innocence, but also for clarity in a world that has none. So even if you don't like these guys, you can at least see why they broke out in 2016 of all years. And if that interpretation makes me sound pretentious, well, I don't care.
I'm falling, so I'm taking my time.
By the way, one of my favorite moments in music this year, I shamelessly belt this part out whenever I hear it on the radio.
I've been thinking too much. Help me. Don't you give up, nah, nah, nah. I won't give up, nah, nah, nah.
Number 7. Speaking of divisive acts... Now we're getting into the songs on this list I am obsessed with. And it's from a former teen idol of all people.
Oh damn, I'm so perplexed with just one breath I'm locked in.
No, I really am glad that Nick Jonas has had some success in the past couple years, though I feel distressingly alone in thinking that Jealous really wasn't that bad. Yeah, I can see how the lyrics could be invasive, but the instrumentation's fine. I never saw any reason to hate it. Even still, Close essentially fixes any problems I could have had with Jealous by playing it as a duet. The phrase, space is just a word made up by someone who's afraid to get close, really is something that either both partners in a relationship should be saying, or neither should be saying.
Space was just a word made up by someone who's afraid to get
Good thing this is something I buy both Nick and Tove saying. Nick Jonas has been building his career off of being a rough and rugged lover over the past couple years, one who may not always have all the answers, but is willing to go in with reckless abandon. And despite his past, I actually kinda believe it. Meanwhile, Tove has always played in a self-destructive, desperate lane. What I'm saying is, they have good chemistry, and it makes way too much sense that they're on a song together. It's very clear that they're on the same page, and any lines that could come across as creepy or crossing a line feel justified. It's what they want, so who am I to stop them? But really, what makes this song work for me is the production. If you know me, you probably know that I like my music bassy, and this song delivers bass in spades. I also really love the steel drum melody, you know, the da 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 part. Yeah, that part. It's good. I don't know what instrument actually plays it, but I like that part. Even the clicking trap percussion works here. It's all very sensual while also being dark and suspenseful, which I think matches these two quite nicely. This is one of the sexiest songs of the year, and I will hear no word to the contrary. Number 6.
When this song first hit the Hot 100, I gave it Worst of the Week. And what was I thinking?
I don't know, I guess I couldn't really get past the hook the first few times I heard this. The way Chris Martin and Beyonce sing the phrase, "I'm feeling drunk and high," as well as the dreamy production made me feel bored for whatever reason. Maybe I was put off guard by how non-Coldplay it was, but I'm not even sure what made me change my mind either. It might have been the Cicabe remix. Yeah, 2016 wasn't the year of the Chainsmokers or 21 Pilots, I was completely wrong. This was the year of Cicabe, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. But nah, it's the original that makes this list, even though the remix clearly gave it a second wind after it initially flopped. But enough about that. I think what I really realized about this song is how similar to Silver Sun pickups it is. By the way, take a shot. The piano, synths, and horns are all clean and exotic, giving the sort of dreamy atmosphere I crave in music. It's also got a distinctly Indian feel, which explains the video, so that's nice. Gives it more flair, allows it to stand out better against the grain of tropical hits this year. The verses build well into an explosive and instantly memorable chorus, if a bit repetitive. Plus, I really love Beyonce's vocals on this. Yeah, she's relegated to backing vocals, but I think it blends together well with Chris Martin. This song probably wouldn't be as earwormy as it is without her. And all this for a song about getting wasted on the weekend. Don't let anyone tell you Coldplay is boring ever again. Side note, yes, this isn't the sort of song you'd normally hear from a rock band, so it can be easy to call Coldplay sellouts as of late. But unlike Maroon 5, Coldplay's stab at pop has actually produced some interesting and unique music. So I'm all for it. Number 5.
All my friends are heathens, take it slow.
So, I didn't see Suicide Squad. I didn't have any interest in watching Suicide Squad, even before it got negative press. But 21 Pilots' Suicide Squad song is amazing. Leave it to Tyler Joseph to make an outdated word like Heathens sound cool.
Please don't make any sudden moves.
First off, I realize this song isn't for everyone, though I guess you could say that about almost any 21 Pilots song. Except for Tear My Heart, everybody loves that song, including me. But everything about this works really well, if I'm honest. The slow, ominous build to the first two verses that explodes twice, awesome. The pitch-shifted vocals that run throughout, I'm gonna be honest, I think those work very well. It's appropriate for the song considering it's meant to sound twisted and eerie, plus it ties in the idea of Blurryface subtly to the point where it could have been one of the stronger tracks on the album if it was on there. But as its own separate entity, it still works amazingly well. It's a very atmospheric, almost creepy song that earns its highs.
You don't know the half of the abuse.
Tyler's vocals are underplayed just enough to keep this from feeling too ham-fisted and ridiculous, and it makes the explosion on the bridge all the more satisfying.
We don't deal with outsiders very well. They say newcomers have a certain smell.
Also, since this is a 21 Pilot song, the lyrics are a lot to unpack, even though it's a soundtrack song. From what I've heard, this is a message addressing the band's sudden mainstream breakout and the new fans they've gotten since.
You love another psychopath sitting next to you. You love another murderer sitting next to you.
It's easy for a longtime fan to say new fans don't get T.O.P.'s music, or to be fearful of the band's mainstream success leading to more bad than good. And what does Tyler Joseph have to say about that? Well, we're all here for a reason. Might as well revel in that fact rather than push people away for no good reason. Still not convinced it's a good song? This guy likes it.
I like this song.
See? Moving on.
It looks like you might be one of us. They go through the darkest of days, having to heartbreak away.
Number 4.
I think a critic named Kevin said it best. This year, there are no popular and unpopular opinions when it comes to music. Everything's divisive, nobody can agree on anything. Except for this song. Everybody likes this song.
I remember late last year when we were all worried about how Ariana Grande's third album would turn out. From the would-be lead single being dropped to the promotional singles in general being underwhelming, there was a lot to be worried about going into this. But fortunately, with the release of the album, those fears had been put to rest. Plus, she's finally notched another top 5 hit with Side to Side, which I very much appreciate. But what I appreciate even more is Into You becoming a hit. Sure, it peaked relatively low, but it still left its mark.
I'm so into you.
Like with Heathens, Into You's biggest triumph is by far its build into an explosive drop. And this time, the drop is also the chorus.
A little bit dangerous, but baby, that's how I want it.
I love the bass on this so much. It's abrasive and fuzzy, which I feel like I would usually hate, but I don't know what to say. Every rule of mine has exceptions, it seems. I guess the reason this clicks with me where a certain other song with a bass-heavy chorus failed for me is that the surrounding elements sound perfect. Ariana's voice is more controlled than usual. For the most part, she saves her belting and ridiculously high vocal flourishes for the last chorus where it really counts. Then there's the warbling synths and, admittedly, fake-sounding drums. Yeah, and writing the script for this sounds like a song that could have easily turned into a train wreck. I'm pretty sure most of these are elements I've harshly criticized songs for in the past, and I'm not even sure I can pinpoint what makes it work here, but it just does. It's like The Purge. Don't watch The Purge, watch the Rick and Morty parody of The Purge. Jeff Goldblum. This is one of the sexiest songs of the year. Way better than it should be or has any right to be. I don't normally think sex should sound this loud and mechanical, but thanks to this, my preconceived notions have been shattered. Take note, Zayn.
I won't give up, nah, nah, nah. Let me love you.
You're through my... Speaking of Zayn,
So we'll piss off the neighbors.
we are living in a post-One Direction world. 2012 me would have been ecstatic to hear those words alone, but now I think I've actually taken somewhat of a liking to the band. I'm not sure how to feel about their split, though. The two solo careers it spawned haven't exactly wowed me either. Though Niles, This Town has grown on me a little bit, I'll admit. Still, I'm a little worried that none of the members on their own will be able to recapture the magic of songs like Best Song Ever or Story of My Life, or more recently this.
And if you like, then I drive it with the windows down.
Even though I'm still far from a fan of One Direction, it is a little sad that easily their best song was one they made without Zayn. Still, the other four do just fine on their own, because this is just incredible. And I was worried for a good chunk of the year that this and Confident were gonna miss the Billboard's year-end list. Sadly, the second of those did come true after all. By the way, Confident would have been number 2 on this list if that had happened. Still, Perfect stayed. I'm a happy bass angler bathrobe guy. Jeez, my online identity is confusing. I've stalled enough. I frickin' love this song, okay? And part of me suspects that's because it sounds very similar to Taylor Swift's style. Gorgeous synths and guitars that culminate into a bombastic, earwormy chorus. Yeah, I'm there. I don't care if it rips off one of the best songs of last year. In fact, there was this whole controversy that Harry wrote it about Taylor Swift and all, especially because of this line.
If you're looking for someone to write your breakup songs about, baby, I'm perfect.
There's some weight to it, I guess. I don't really care one way or the other. I kinda enjoy music more when I ignore the drama around the artists who make it. Which might sound contradictory to what I'm about to say next, because I love the lyrics to this.
I might never be a knight in shining armor.
The reason people were critical of One Direction early in their career was because their lyrics always sounded manipulative and non-specific. And well, Perfect is still trying to paint a fantasy, but it's a realistic fantasy, if that makes any sense. Because the boys here paint themselves as people with actual flaws. For example, I'm no good at making promises, I'm someone you can write your breakup songs about. And yeah, there is some wish fulfillment here too, like midnight drives or traveling to exotic places. It's about romance in the moment, which, again, kinda ties it back to style. But again, I don't really mind. I'm addicted to this kind of sound.
Let's try right now.
Number 2.
Where do the good boys go to hide away?
Maybe you were wondering why I didn't mention Daya at all in my worst list this year. Maybe you weren't, I don't know. Either way, short answer is, I don't hate her. I don't think her songs have been fantastic, but I think they're passable. Immature, but passable. They're catchy, they sound nice, so overall, I don't mind her. Then again, I don't think she'll ever make a song better than this.
Don't let me, don't let me, don't let me down. Don't let me down. Don't let me down.
Seriously, this is just beautiful. Like I said, I wasn't crazy about Roses, but Don't Let Me Down had me hook, line, and sinker almost immediately.
Crashing, hit a wall.
Pretty much any issue I have with Daya as a singer is absent here. Her voice is clearer than usual, she sounds more mature and on point. Really, she probably makes a better EDM singer than she does a pop singer. Her performance really captures the feeling of intense desperation at wanting somebody to be there for you in a relationship.
I need ya, I need ya, I need you right now.
And yeah, that's a simple premise for a song. Even Justin Bieber did that same kind of song last year with Skrillex and Diplo. But I think Don't Let Me Down perfects that concept. Daya's vocals get more intense as the song goes on, with the repetition of the title phrase heightening the sense of desperation and fear. Am I looking too deep into this? I don't care. And that's just the vocals. Like I said in the last video, it's a shame that the Chainsmokers have become laughingstocks again, because their comeback started off so strong, especially with this song. I love that guitar lick, I love the way the synths build during the verses, and I especially love that drop. I understand where the drop would lose people, and the first couple times I heard it I thought it was weird too, but it didn't take long for this to become one of my favorite drops of the year. It's exotic, it's intense, and it's a perfect climax to an incredible build. Seriously, this is like candy to my ears. It all just builds more on the sense of desperation set up by the lyrics and Daya's performance. I love every second of this. I do not hesitate when I say this is pop perfection. Even as an apologist of these guys, I don't think the Chainsmokers will ever make a song as good as this ever again. And yet, there's still one song I kept coming back to and loving even more this year.
Don't let me down, down, down.
And now, here's 10 honorable mentions that were also quite good.
Wish we could turn back time.
I remember when I thought these guys were gonna be one-hit wonders. I'm so glad they weren't. Reggae and dancehall pretty much dominated 2016, so it makes sense that Ariana would want to take a stab at it. Oh boy did she deliver. Let's just say the song feels truly like an adventure of a lifetime. If people consider this Coldplay selling out, I'm all for them selling out even harder in the years to come. Bring it on! To me, this was pretty much the definitive tropical house song of 2016, but in a good way. Also, by far, one of the best things Justin Bieber has ever done. This is another song that does numerous things I've criticized other songs for doing, like a cheap synth line and underweight performance, but somehow I think it works really freaking good here. I especially love the YTP-esque chorus. This is an instant earworm.
I will never forget you.
I mean, they could have pushed the far superior Lush Life in America since it was a hit pretty much everywhere else, but you know what? this is still fantastic in its own right. This was going to be a dishonorable mention on my worst list of 2015 before I realized it didn't make the year end. And then it grew on me. Quite a bit. Funny how that happens.
I'm so sick of that same old love. My body's had enough.
I think Selena Gomez pulls off classy R&B better than she does sexy R&B. Though, to be honest, I mostly just like the melody and instrumentation of this. Yeah, I still love Imagine Dragons, although I consider this more of an ex-Ambassador song due to its instrumentation, and despite Sam Harris only being at the end. I considered putting this on the list proper at one point, but it just missed the cut. There was so much good that I was trying to cram into this list, I had to cut a lot. Trust me.
When we were young, I won't give up, nah, nah, nah.
And now, number 1.
We love you.
My number 1 is so special to me that I don't think I could introduce it properly with words. So instead I'm going to play it for you on piano.
You could probably see this coming from a mile away. My first ever video song review was on this song, and even then, I don't think I gave it justice. I didn't really know how to phrase my thoughts properly, and I think I undersold just how incredible this song is. I also didn't go as in-depth as I could have. So, here's my second chance.
I took a pill in Ibiza to show Avicii I was cool.
This is a song in which Mike Posner, a washed-up pop singer turned behind-the-scenes songwriter, owns up to his faults as an artist and cuts deep into the hollowness of having fame and subsequently losing it.
I'm a real big baller cause I made $1 million and I spend it on girls and shoes.
He still acts like he's living a good life by putting on a facade and acting like a big shot. You know, kinda like the image he tried to put on early in his career. But here, he's cutting the bullshit. This is a real, honest look at the emotional turmoil he's going through, and it's one of the most heart-wrenching songs of the decade. And all that could apply to just the original, which was a simple acoustic number, but the remix does nothing but add to its genius. It's somber, it's bassy, yet it keeps a tropical edge to it that makes it strangely danceable. I can't thank Cicabe enough for this. Not just for making this song popular, but in making this even better than it already was. And that drop is just fantastic. Plenty have said it, but this is the best drop of 2016. Bar none. Even though this actually came out in 2015, I don't care. And you know what? This isn't even the best song off of At Night alone. I don't think I could describe just how gut-punching songs like Not That Simple, Be As You Are, Buried in Detroit, Iris, or In the Arms of a Stranger are. Seriously, check this album out if you haven't. Posner's turned a new leaf, and this is a must-listen for this year. And I might have completely missed it if I Took a Pill in Ibiza hadn't become so huge. There was no contest to begin with. This is my favorite hit song of the year, and possibly even of the decade. That's it for now. Take care.
I know a sad soul